Welcome back to the podcast. So I'm going to share a story with you that I think is critical to the subject we're going to cover off in this podcast. So I want you to have a think about this. You're sat in your office right now and you're thinking about a choice that you've got to make. You've got two solutions, two companies with similar solutions, and they both offer some similar outcomes and both have some pluses and some minuses, and you're thinking about them, the companies, and both have good history and lots of evidence to show that their solution works really well. And you're thinking one's a bit more expensive than the other, though. So you're sitting there and going, it's 10% more expensive. So it's enough that it would give you, it's a sizable investment. It would give you some, ability to invest in other areas. And you've got these two companies, and you're thinking one's 10% the other expensive than the other. They're both quite similar. They've both got good track records. But you're sitting there thinking, this isn't an easy decision. And you're asking yourself why that question is. And the reason is this, because one of the account managers that is there is a guy called Jack, and he's the lead account manager for the cheaper company. And he just gives you a few worries compared to the lady called Joanne, who's at the other provider. And why are you worried about Jack? Well, he's very efficient and he's professional, but he just doesn't seem to care as much. And he just doesn't seem to have the same energy and enthusiasm that Joanne does. Whereas you meet with Joanne and she's a breath of fresh air. She's always asking about you and your company and who you are. And she seems to be focused on what's right for you and the company and not for her. And she's even, Joanne's even gone and said she's really sorry that she can't match the price that Jack has put forward. And she'd even said she'd understand if we didn't choose them, and that she'd be gutted because she wanted to be honest and she loved the thought of working with us. And, she's just that bit different. And I look at that scenario there and I think, all right, we're in tough economic times. But when you see those two scenarios, and if you were the buyer, where you've got Jack in one hand, who's very professional and good, but his service is 10% less, or you've got Joanne, who's just got that care and that passion and that drive and that energy to work with you and just cares about you getting the right result as a business, what choice would you make? And the reason it's a bit of a longer story to get you started, but I wanted to use this week's episode to talk about something that I call the hidden 10%. And the hidden 10% is it's one of the critical factors around sales and selling that I think makes such a massive difference when it comes to engaging with buyers. And it's something that is hard to put your finger on. Just in that situation of Jack and Joanne that I've talked about there, it's hard to put your finger on. But yet it's so critical in the overall sales process and the way of working in sales and selling. And when I think of that scenario, I think of two people, and I think of what's the difference between someone like Jack and Joanne, and what's the difference that I think comes through, and it's the bit that I talk to people about having in sales that you just can't buy and you can't teach, but is the difference between winners and losers, I think. And it's the part of, and here are some of the things that I think make that aspect for people. It's the part of you that when you sell just radiates through with you without you having to do anything different. It's just an enormous passion and care and drive for the buyer to get the right result. It's just a deep seated belief that you want them to be successful and you want them to be happy and you want them to get the results that you want. So I think that's the first thing that comes through. It's the part of that salesperson or that business owner that when a solution is made, that they made a choice, just makes that person feel happy inside, not because they're earning money, but because they're taking a problem away for someone. They're absolutely just solving an issue in someone's life that's a challenge that they want to get resolved. And it's that feeling that people get when they make that happen, not for the monetary gain, but for the impact that they're going to solve. It's that ability to show passion, but also should be calm and cohesive and respond when a difficult question is asked, and to really empathise with the buyer and to engage with that person, to care about the response and to think carefully about the response and the impact that their answers will have on other people. And it's the part of that person that where they'll go out of their way to do something for a buyer, even though it doesn't mean that they're going to guarantee to get the results, but they'll take a task, they'll do something that requires effort, that requires commitment more than necessarily you expect normally, and not with any expectation to gain something from it, but because they care so much about it. it's the part of the proposal that they send that is just higher standards. They're just not prepared to sacrifice for average quality. They want it to be the best that it can be and to share the best insights and outcomes. And it's the respect that they show when someone thinks differently, and they don't go into it with, oh, I think you're wrong, or this is different. But hey, I love your opinion on this, loving your thoughts, what's making you think this way? And so what I just wanted to share with you guys today is around something called the hidden 10%. And it's the 10% that I think salespeople have that I think makes the difference. And you can't identify. It's why it's hidden, right? It's why you can't teach it sometimes, but yet it's the soul of who someone is. And I was doing an interview yesterday for a lady on a podcast that I'm going to share soon. And she was talking about how successful she is with clients, and she's got that hidden 10%. Because we talked around the fact that she cares about the people that she's talking to, and she'll happily say to them, if I'm not the right person for this, that's okay. I want what's best for you, and she'll happily be able to build a relationship with someone and really care about what's right for them. And I think it's those elements that I think are so many salespeople and business owners don't think about, but yet are so critical to the overall process. Because if you have got a buyer that's looking to make that decision between two similar options and two similar services, the reality is, in most cases, it's those smaller details, those smaller bits of information that make the difference. The way the person is, the way they talk, the way they feel, the way they act about you, and the way that they engage with you, and the care they show, and the congruency they show in their regular engagements. And when you meet them time and time again, they're the same people. They've just got that deep care and understanding, and they're not suited to focus on themselves. And there's all of these elements that I think are critical in having that hidden 10%. And I encourage people to try and, people say to me, well, how can I develop that? And great point. And it comes down to a number of things. It comes down to wanting to do a job for someone that's solving a problem, not just making money. It comes down to having care and professionalism and standards in the way you operate. It comes down to being obsessed about learning your craft. It comes down to being so curious and intrigued and interested in other people, and having that give-as-get mentality where you're happy to share something even though it doesn't mean anything for you. And a lot of salespeople don't have that. A lot of business people don't have that because they operate in a give-to-receive mode rather than having this calmer philosophy that knows that actually if you do the right things in the right way, you'll get the right result in time. And look, I think this 10% is something that you might think, well, this is the weirdest podcast I've ever listened to because it's full of benign stuff that I can't comprehend. But it is just something I urge you to try and develop in the skills that you have and the people you work with. And I always say to people, you can teach skills, but you can't teach attitude. And if you've got that hunger and that desire and that attitude to develop and to grow and to want to become better and to serve and to help other people and to give before you get and to show sales value before sales vanity and serve before you sell, then people might say to you, oh, you're never going to get business results, you're never going to get results, but you will in time. It's those parts of you, that parts of your character, that parts of who you are that you can't teach, that people love about who you are and what you're about. And I encourage people to develop those skills, those elements, by being reflective and going on that journey themselves, to be humble, to be a servant, to be someone that's there to provide rather than to take. And it's a set of skills that I just believe are so essential in selling. It's something, skills that I try and show in my sales day-to-day career on a regular basis because I care about the end result that people are having, and I care about the clients that I'm trying to work with. And even though I don't always get results, and I don't, but it's about being able to deliver to those aspects and deliver what's required. So look, I wanted just to share this story because I think this hidden 10% is so critical. They are the things, like I mentioned, that people don't necessarily think through. But if you can develop that sense of doing something more than just your job and doing more than just earning money. I was at an event the other day and I was thinking there's people that actually talk about just earning money, and it just made me feel a bit, it's not where I want to be. Actually, you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't make an impact, if you don't help people's lives, if you don't change the dynamic for people, then ultimately that's and don't make an impact in their world, is that really going to make you sleep better at night? And for me, it wouldn't. And it's about making that impact that counts. But maybe you're different. Maybe you are solely focused on the money. And if that's the case, great. Hey, that's your call. But I think the hidden 10%, if you just solely focus on money or what you can gain from it, buyers see through that. They see through that. They sense that you're doing this just to service your own requirements and feather your own nest, and not about what matters for them. And if they have no choice, of course, they may have to go with you, but they'll do it a bit gritty teeth. Whereas if you can build that relationship and build that understanding and that care for someone, that absolute belief that you can make a difference in their world and committed to helping them, even if it doesn't mean anything for you right now, knowing that in time you've done the right thing, not just the easy thing, then I think you'll get those results. So look, I want to share that story with you. I don't know if you relate to it. If you do, let me know. I mean, have you had conversations with clients and discussions where people have noticed this about you and the way you are? Maybe they've said, we just liked who you were. Maybe it was part of the element of your character that people loved and built trust with. I'd love to know. But I think this hidden 10%, these elements that I've talked about that are just ingrained in who the person is, are critical to selling, and they're critical to you being successful. And if you want to grow your business and scale and get where you want to be, I'd urge you to literally have those things in mind and to develop these skills and these characteristics and these emotional intelligence elements that can enable us to care and want to serve and be better. And if you do that, you're going to win more deals in time. And if you don't win them straight away, you'll get your just rewards in time for being that right person, doing the consistent things and doing the good things and the right things, not just the easy things and the things that serve you. So that's my podcast for this week. I hope it makes sense. I hope it's given you some ideas and thoughts on what that 10% is. As I always do, I finish the podcast off with an inspirational story. And I wanted just to talk a story around, I was talking to someone about a challenge the other day. I've given up my running boots now because my knees are given up, but I'm looking at some cycling challenges at the moment and looking at a really exciting one for next year. And I was looking at a story of a guy called Christopher Strasser, who broke the record for cycling across Australia. So he broke the record for cycling across Australia. So he did 3,950 kilometers. And guess how many, that's nearly, I think where my calculator, nearly 3,000 miles. And he did that in just less than 7 days, cycling across Australia. So Christopher Strasser, of course, he's an incredible cyclist endurance athlete. But when I looked at things like that, I was thinking, wow, to go from Perth to Sydney, to cycle across Australia in some of the hottest conditions known to anyone, and to do that in 7 days, I think is incredible. I think it's just incredible what he's able to do. And he's my inspirational story for today. And he's definitely got that hidden 10% because he's got that belief and commitment to making things happen, that he will do whatever needs to. And I think people like Christopher Strasser are an inspiration to us all that we can actually use as part of that. So look, if Christopher's story can inspire you, great. I hope the stories that I always share can inspire you to achieve great things. I believe it's in your hands to become the next inspiration to other people that you work with, whether you're a business owner, growing a business and sharing your successes and how you've achieved things with other people, or whether you're inspiring your kids or your family members to go and do things. Just be that inspiration to help other people, make that difference in the world, and we'll all be a better place as well to it. So that's it from me this week. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.